As the influence of Tarumanagara waned, King Tarusbawa realized that his vision for the Sundanese people had outgrown the failing structures of the old kingdom. Rather than fight to preserve a crumbling legacy, he chose to establish a new beginning. Thus, in 669 AD, he founded the Sunda Kingdom, planting its heart in the spiritually resonant land of Pakuan Pajajaran. Here, under his rule, the kingdom flourished in peace, guided by the principles of dharma, cultural harmony, and religious tolerance. Recognizing his advancing age and the lack of a male heir, Tarusbawa looked to his daughter, Dewi Tejakancana. She was wed to Sanjaya Harisdarma, a noble prince of both Sundanese and Galuh heritage. This union was not merely familial, it was the spiritual and political convergence of two great lineages. Sensing Sanjaya's exceptional leadership and deep spiritual understanding, Tarusbawa entrusted the kingdom to him. The handover of power was peaceful, ceremonious, and symbolic, representing the end of Tarusbawa's era and the dawn of a new dynasty. Tarusbawa then retreated into the sacred mountains, leaving no tomb nor trace behind. The people believed he had attained moksha, leaving the material world to become one with the divine. His spirit, they said, still wandered the forests, protecting the kingdom in unseen form. Sanjaya Harisdarma was not an ordinary ruler. Born to Rakai Sana, a king of Galuh, and Sanaha, a Sundanese princess, Sanjaya embodied a powerful union of Java's most noble bloodlines. Trained in statecraft, warfare, and sacred Hindu texts from a young age, he possessed both the intellect and charisma needed to command loyalty. His early years were spent navigating the political intricacies of Galuh and Sunda, gaining the trust of both courts and laying the groundwork for a unified rule. With Tarusbawa's blessing and his wife Tejakancana's support, Sanjaya took the throne. His vision extended beyond the western regions of Java. He recognized the potential of central Java as a political and spiritual center. He moved his seat of power there and began laying the foundation for a new kingdom, Mataram. Sanjaya's move marked a shift not only in geography, but also in cultural and religious emphasis. From the beginning, Sanjaya made it clear that his reign would be rooted in dharma and devotion to Lord Shiva. He issued reforms to bring stability, improved agricultural systems, and encouraged the construction of temples and educational institutions. His rule was strong yet benevolent, inspired by a vision of harmony between worldly duty and spiritual fulfillment. Sanjaya's transition to central Java was strategic. The land was fertile, the geography defensible, and the spiritual energy abundant. There, he officially established the Mataram Kingdom, planting the seeds of the Sanjaya dynasty. His rule was documented in the famed Kangal inscription, 732 AD, where he proclaimed his kingship, lineage from King Sana, and commitment to restoring order and righteousness. He strengthened the kingdom's religious identity by promoting Hindu Shaivism. Temples dedicated to Shiva sprang up across the Dieng Plateau, and religious scholars found patronage in Sanjaya's court. His spiritual depth resonated with his people, who saw him not only as a king, but as a divine conduit between earth and heaven. Under his leadership, Mataram transformed into a thriving cultural and political hub. Trade increased, law and order were enforced with fairness, and the arts flourished. Sanjaya was hailed across the archipelago as a model king, balancing wisdom with strength. Even the wisest rulers face adversity. Sanjaya's reign was tested by shifting alliances, external threats, and internal dissent. Yet through diplomatic skill and military discipline, he preserved the unity of his realm. His army, trained with discipline and guided by spiritual leaders, defended the kingdom with honor. One of the most significant challenges came from rival factions that questioned Sanjaya's centralization of power. But instead of ruling with an iron fist, he met opposition with dialogue and understanding. His combination of spiritual authority and practical governance diffused tensions and strengthened loyalty. Victories in battle further enhanced his prestige, but Sanjaya never sought expansion for glory's sake. Each conquest was followed by integration, education, and religious outreach. He turned newly acquired regions into contributors to a greater cultural unity, not just subjects of his crown. Beyond the battlefield, Sanjaya faced natural disasters that tested the resilience of his people. Periods of drought and volcanic eruptions threatened agricultural production and stability. In response, he initiated public works, irrigation projects, food reserves, and housing for displaced communities. These actions endeared him further to his people, who saw their king as a protector and provider. Sanjaya also made efforts to unify the various spiritual practices within his realm. While Shaivism was dominant, he welcomed teachings from other streams of Hinduism and tolerated local animist traditions. This inclusivity strengthened social cohesion and minimized rebellion rooted in religious conflict. His reign, therefore, was not only marked by military and administrative strength, but also by deep cultural diplomacy. By the end of these trials, Sanjaya had proven himself not only as a warrior king, but as a father to his people. His ability to blend strength with compassion, power with humility, and order with spiritual insight became the very fabric of the Mataram Kingdom's golden age. In his later years, Sanjaya became increasingly devoted to spiritual pursuits. He was often seen meditating in mountain temples or engaging in long philosophical dialogues with sages. Legends grew around his mystical powers. Some said he could enter trances that revealed the future. Others claimed he communicated with divine beings. He wrote commentaries on dharma and sought to unify the spiritual teachings of his realm. Under his patronage, sacred texts were copied and preserved. Temple rituals were systematized, and the moral education of leaders became a priority. He believed that without spiritual foundation, no kingdom could last. Despite his increasing detachment from political life, Sanjaya continued to shape his kingdom's direction through counsel and sacred edicts. His advisors and heirs followed his teachings closely, turning his spiritual guidance into lasting state policies. Before withdrawing completely, Sanjaya ensured a stable succession. He appointed his son, Rakai Panangkaran, as heir and mentored him personally. This transfer of power was seamless, with Panangkaran inheriting not just a kingdom, but a moral compass forged by Sanjaya's example. As dynasty would go on to influence Java for generations. His blending of Sundanese and Javanese traditions laid the foundation for a unified cultural identity. Even his rivals respected his wisdom, and his name became a byword for just and enlightened rule. As he aged, Sanjaya retreated to the highlands, spending his remaining days in meditation and teaching. He passed not with fanfare but in peace, leaving behind a legacy that echoed through temples, texts, and tales. Sanjaya's death was not seen as an end, but as a transformation. Just like Tarusbawa, he left no tomb behind. The people believed he had joined the ranks of the ascended, his soul dwelling in the sacred mountains to guide future generations. His dynasty continued, but his spirit was never replaced. Rulers who followed invoked his name in prayers and inscriptions, seeking the wisdom and strength that defined his reign. Even centuries later, his teachings were quoted, and his vision lived on in the structure of kingdoms and the hearts of people. Temples built during and after his reign bore his legacy in their stonework. Images of deities bearing his likeness, scripts inscribed with his decrees, and sacred relics dedicated to his spiritual path. Pilgrims traveled to sacred sites associated with his meditative life, believing the aura of Sanjaya's soul still lingered in those holy places. Scholars and poets of later centuries remembered him as more than a king. They wrote of him as a sage, a prophet, and a guide to rulers yet unborn. In folklore, he became a character of miracles, often appearing in visions or dreams to those in need. His name became a mantra for righteous leadership, whispered in temples and royal courts alike. Sanjaya was and remains the embodiment of ideal kingship in Javanese memory, a beacon of unity, strength, wisdom, and spiritual devotion that continues to illuminate the cultural soul of Indonesia to this day.